Cerebral palsy is a big problem in our environment, the cause of childhood neurodisability. Join Dr. Peace Ameregula on Life Beyond Limits, an health awareness program centered on cerebral palsy, exclusive only on Flow 94.9 FM, 7:30 a.m. on Saturdays. Dr. Peace is a consultant orthopedic surgeon with Federal Medical Center, Umuahia.
Hello, listener. I'm so excited to be with you today. I'm Dr. Peace Ameregula, a consultant orthopedic surgeon with the Federal Medical Center, Umuahia. This is a new program coming your way from Flow FM, and it's on cerebral palsy. We have titled it Life Beyond Limits. Cerebral palsy is such a big problem in our environment. It's the commonest cause of childhood neurodisability. I'm sure you must have seen a child in your environment. Maybe at birth, the child didn't cry, was probably delivered in one of those maternities around, or just one of those places around, and the child didn't cry immediately, and probably you've seen this child at 6 months and his head is still dancing around, or even at a year, 2 years, this child just sits down, can't even move, like crawl or walk like you'd expect every other child his age. I'm sure you also would have noticed some children with this abnormal movement. It looks like their head is always dancing around. They are just making this movement you can't characterize. I remember seeing a child sometime, and the mother said, "Auntie, can you imagine? My neighbors say my child is a snake." Things like that happen, and it happens in our environment so often like that. It's a big problem, but it ought not to have been like that. The idea of this program came up from an experience I had in Denmark when I went there for some training. I saw children who also have this condition, cerebral palsy, and they receive such good care, lovely care, I would say. One mother actually asked me when I was admiring the child and how much care they were giving. She asked me, "In Nigeria, what do you do for them?" I said, "Oh, in Nigeria, it's what we call Oyo." And she wondered, "What's that?" I said, "It means you're on your own." But, I think it takes just one person to make a difference. So that's why we are here. Cerebral palsy is a big problem. It causes limitations, but that doesn't have to be like that. Worldwide, it's a condition that can affect any child, not just in Nigeria. Even in the US, it happens. But the outcome is always different. Why? Because they have a different attitude. The parents don't think it's the end of the world for their child, so they give all the positive environment they can. They give all the motivation they can. They give every facility to make the child have the best of life. And I've seen children who have cerebral palsy end up being doctors, entertainers, doing something lovely for their lives, doing something good for the environment, not being depressed about their condition, but just taking it that, okay, they are different because this has happened. Or maybe they are slower. Like a child said, "Oh, I'm just slower than my twin brother, so he is in a class higher than I am." But that doesn't happen here. Here in Nigeria, you see people with this kind of children, hiding them in their different homes and all the things like that. So the essence of this program is for us to begin to create an awareness for this condition so people realize exactly what it is about. Let us understand that we need to create the right kind of environment for these children. They are different, yes, but we can also make a positive difference in their lives. We can make them to live beyond the limits that cerebral palsy has placed for them. And come to think about it, I also think in a way, we all have our different limits. Even when we don't have cerebral palsy, sometimes we just stop thinking. Maybe because life has patterned the environment for us somehow, so we just blend into a mode. But it doesn't have to be like that. We can make a difference. That's the whole message that we are bringing on this. So through the program, through different episodes, we'll be talking about what cerebral palsy means, how it manifests, what can be done, and moreover, the trend now is towards early intervention services. We can do something, and early intervention services actually makes the whole difference for this child. It entails so much: physiotherapy, speech therapy, so many things that you need to do for these children. And you just look around. Sometimes I get depressed why can't we do something? But yeah, it can take just one person to create that awareness, and you find other people keying into it. And that's what I've experienced so far. I've talked with a number of people, and they're so excited about the idea, and they all believe we can actually do something to make a difference in the lives of these children with cerebral palsy. So this is not going to be a one-off program. It's going to come your way every week, every month, every year by the grace of God. We'll see how far we can get on with that.
You're listening to Life Beyond Limits with Dr. Peace, sensitizing you on childhood neurodisability, known as cerebral palsy. For your question, contribution, and comment, send a message to 0818 079 7949.
Now, for today, we are going to talk about cerebral palsy, try to define it, and some of the causes of cerebral palsy. Now, cerebral palsy, like I said, is a clinical condition that is caused by a damage to the immature brain. This damage could happen while the child is still in the womb. In medical terms, we say in utero. It can happen just at birth, or up till the time the child is maybe 4 or 5, but most times by the time the child is 2 years. So it's a damage to the immature brain. It's a permanent damage, which means the damage doesn't go away. It's just there. And the manifestation is usually motor disability. It affects how the child moves. It may cause a delay in the developmental milestones, like a child that should achieve head control at 3 months. At 6 months, his head is still dancing around. He can't control that. Or a child at a year is still not crawling, is not walking. Some of them don't walk at all. Some walk very late. Some of them have speech abnormalities. Some have mental retardation, but that doesn't happen in all of them. A lot of them have epilepsy. There are so many things that cerebral palsy could manifest through. And what causes this? Most times, the commonest cause in our environment is birth asphyxia. Birth asphyxia means this child is delivered, they not cry immediately. Some people would have wondered, when a child is born, everybody wants the child to cry. If the child cries, everyone is excited. But if the child doesn't cry, the midwife wants to beat the child, do all kinds of things to make sure that the child cries. Now, when the child cries, it has a way of opening up the lungs so that oxygen can go in, and, the brain gets enough oxygen and the whole body gets oxygen and everywhere opens up. But if a child doesn't cry, that doesn't happen. And if this lasts for up to 5 minutes, it can actually cause some permanent damage that you may not notice at that time. Sometimes, it's the mother who has an infection during pregnancy. That infection could actually be of any form. There's this thing they call touch, like a group of infections, toxoplasmosis, rubella, cytomegalovirus, and all that the mother could be exposed to during her pregnancy, and this could go a long way to affect the developing child. Or sometimes the child is delivered, and in the early period he develops an infection. He may have sepsis, he may have jaundice. This can actually result from jaundice. Some mothers wonder why when you deliver in places like FMC, they don't want you to go immediately. They want you to spend some days. They want to look at your child and all that. It's not just because the hospital wants you to stay in the hospital, they want to look at you and all that. No. The reason why that happens is that they want to look out for the presence of jaundice in your child. If jaundice is noticed in a child early, then the treatment is instituted so it doesn't get into the brain. Now, if jaundice is not detected early, if it's so much, the bilirubin is excessive in the blood system, it can actually get to the brain and cause some brain damage. And when that happens, it's going to manifest in cerebral palsy in this child, because it would affect the developmental milestones of this child. Sepsis means there is an infection in the blood system. Alright, now when that happens also, it affects everything in the body. It can even cause the blood cells to start hemolyzing. That means the blood cells start breaking down. It can cause a lot of damage in the blood cells, but it can cause some damage to the brain cells. And remember, we are talking of these babies that are still immature. So all this damage to the brain cells would now manifest in cerebral palsy, because it's going to affect the subsequent development of this child. And how does this manifest? Maybe in the early period, you actually don't think there's anything wrong. When you start noticing it, that there's a delay, many times people think, oh, those witches are at it again. My enemies have started. That's often the way it goes. Where I grew up, I remember this woman, she had a first child. You would carry this boy, very handsome boy, lovely baby. But when you carry him, even at 6 months, his head would just be dancing around. His eyes would be rolling in a funny way. And children would always look at him and wonder, what kind of baby is this? And, it was just difficult to carry him. No child wanted to play with him. No child wanted to carry him. Unlike the way that you want to carry a baby and play with the baby, he was not able to respond that way. So it was a bit difficult. And by the time the mother had a second baby and it was still the same way, she concluded her mother-in-law was a witch. Meanwhile, this was a problem, at least in her case, that could have been prevented. Possibly she had attended antenatal or even delivered at the right place, but she was just having her babies in one of those shackles in the neighborhood that went by the name of maternity homes. Nobody was even sure what they did there. So it happened the first time, happened the second time. She concluded her mother-in-law was a witch and she left the home. She left her husband and the babies. And well, today I don't know what has become of them, but I have seen that around. Even homes where you think these parents are enlightened, homes where you think these parents are educated. The way that a lot of people handle these children leaves so much to be desired. Some homes that I know, they have a child with cerebral palsy and they tend to keep the child away from every other person. Mind you, health is not just the fact that, I don't have headache, I don't have fever. No. Health, by the WHO definition, means a state of mental, physical, and social well-being. So you now find this child that is being deprived of social interactions. Do you think the child will be healthy? He already has a disability and you are compounding it by depriving him of the much needed social interactions. You are depriving it by making him feel even more that, I have disabilities. You are depriving him by not exposing him to the right environment. That is really bad. Now, another thing also is that, this condition, it's a permanent damage. So it's not something that is going to go away. So what do you do? Now, the mainstay of the treatment is physiotherapy. We are going to spend some more time as we go along the way. In subsequent episodes, we'll be spending time to talk about this condition in more details. We'll talk about how the child can be integrated socially. We'll talk about the educational opportunities, how to improve them. We'll talk about getting speech therapies for them. We'll talk about improving their environment generally. We'll talk about even classifying their disability. Yeah, they have special needs. We don't have to increase that. We rather have to try to see what we can do to make their lives better. We need to make a difference in their lives. The mainstay of their treatment is physiotherapy. And the whole essence of that is to prevent or at least reduce development of deformities that could come with this condition. Even that is expensive because, in our environment, healthcare is paid out of pocket by most people. The insurance, yes, we have the National Health Insurance Scheme. It's working, but it's not yet working optimally because not everybody has access to it. So it's a bit difficult for many parents to continue to take their children for physiotherapy. So what's going to happen? We need to talk about that in subsequent episodes. We'll have to find out how to possibly develop a gym for them so that there is an environment where those parents can bring their children at little cost if not at no cost at all, so that they are encouraged. We have to talk about how to really improve everything about these children to make it easy for them to integrate into the society. That is very, 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 very important. So like I said earlier, I got this vision from the experience that I've had and then what I had seen around us, and I thought, no, we can't continue this way. And from the little we have done so far, we've had 1 or 2 seminars to raise awareness, and the response from the people was just beautiful. People thought, oh, we didn't know something could be done. And you know, when we institute early intervention services for them, it helps the outcome, it improves the outcome, and that is what is being done everywhere. Here it's a bit costly, we don't have all the personnel, so possibly we are going to find a way of maybe raising volunteers who will be willing to do whatever they can for these children, so that we have a healthy society, and even those ones with special needs find some happiness. They are able to integrate. And you know what, I won't just be talking all the time. In some of the episodes I will tell us about what we'll talk about the condition for that day, and we have a time to take your responses, take your opinions, your contributions, whatever. And for you to do that, you have to send to us on 0818 079 7949, SMS only. 0818 079 7949. When you do that, send your SMS, send your comments, send your contributions, send your questions. We'll take them as much as we can. If we don't take them on the same day, we'll take them in subsequent episodes. But you can be sure that together, because I believe that together we can do something about this condition and we can make life better.
You're listening to Life Beyond Limits with Dr. Peace, sensitizing you on childhood neurodisability, known as cerebral palsy. For your question, contribution, and comment, send a message to 0818 079 7949.
Now, did I tell you how common this is? At least 3 in every 1,000 children have cerebral palsy. That's very common. It may be more. That number is based on those who bring their children to the hospital. Now, because everybody has to pay from his pocket for healthcare, some who don't have all that money do not bring their children to the hospital. So we've not gone from home to check. And in the southeast, we actually do not have the figures. The figures I have just quoted, 3 to 4 in 1,000 children, is a figure that we got from studies done in the West, studies done outside. That's the minimum that happens. And this is a cause. More than 50% of children who have this are not able to walk. Many of them walk, but they walk in funny ways. Many of them walk, but their limbs are not strong enough. Their limbs are weak. Their limbs, they need support. And we don't get to have all this support because the awareness is not enough. We are working to improve the awareness. We want people to get to know better about this condition so that the way these children are will be improved, will be better. So once more, it's been Dr. Peace Amarebulam, a consultant orthopedic surgeon, speaking to you from the studio. It is all about cerebral palsy. We are creating an awareness for cerebral palsy in Nigeria. Cerebral palsy is the commonest cause of child neurodisabilities in Nigeria. It is so common. It happens everywhere. It's not just a problem for Nigeria, it's a global problem. But we are focusing on Nigeria because we live in Nigeria. We are focusing on the southeast because that's where we are. We are focusing on the southeast because from experience, little is being done about it here. We are focusing on the southeast because from experience, some people are doing something in the west, but in the east, we don't really have much going on. We are focusing on it because even here in Umuahia, yes, there is a school where children can go here in Umuahia, but they don't have all the facilities that they are supposed to be exposed to. They don't have all the facilitators that should help them. Early intervention services is not yet instituted here in the city, and these are all things that we are trying to work on. These are all things that we are trying to bring as part of our vision to improve the quality of life of children with cerebral palsy. They don't have to live under the limits imposed on them by that condition called cerebral palsy. It is a condition that affects every aspect of their health, not just the physical part, but also the social part, because children do not play readily with them. They look at them as strange, they look at them as different, and the attitude of the society does not help that. We look at them and we think, oh, if this child is like this, nothing can be done. But we need to start now. In Igbo we would say, no sitata demma. We need to start now to start making a difference. Now that there is some emphasis on helping children with disabilities, these children have special needs. We need to look onto their special needs. We need to do something to help them. We need to do something to improve their outcome. We need to do something to improve their quality of life. We need to do something to make sure that they don't all develop those deformities that they are prone to develop. We need to do something to turn around what we have in our society. And that's the whole essence of Life Beyond Limits. That's the whole essence of this program that will be coming to you from now on. It's a weekly program. It's centered on cerebral palsy in Nigeria. It's going to deal on the different aspects. And please, I call on you to just tune in all the time. Listen, send in your questions, send in your comments. If you have a child with cerebral palsy, or you know someone that has a condition and you listen, you may hear something that could help the parents. You may hear something that would even help prevent or reduce the prevalence of this condition in our society. Remember, your contributions, your questions, your comments will be sent as SMS only to 0818 079 7949. 0818 079 7949. I'm Dr. Peace Amarebulam. Thank you, and God bless you.
That's it this week on Life Beyond Limits, where Dr. Peace sensitizes you on cerebral palsy. For your question, contribution, and comment, send a message to 0818 079 7949. Strictly text message.